Anyway, so we're back at this woman offering me to go to the aquarium. So she tells me she has my mother's full permission ahead of time. She says it's just going to be she and I, and we're going to have the best time ever. And that we can go right now. She's already got my mother's permission. She already talked to her. And we got right in the car. That's how easy. That's how easy. I mean, it was 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. How quickly that manifested that I was in her backseat. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Let's Be Frank with me, your host, Molly Sky Brown. I'm gonna be legit with y'all and real with y'all on this episode because I don't even know where to start. It's been fucking insanity since coming out as a survivor publicly. I really fantasized about this way differently as a child. I honestly thought when I came out, people would give a fuck. I honestly thought when I came out, people would believe me because, oh gosh, they've heard so many similar stories by this time that we would just get some fucking resolution. I thought when I came out that the laws still protected me because a lot of people failed me, that I never got to report anything or get any justice or do anything about it. And I meet survivor after survivor after survivor going through similar stuff. And some of them are in jail, being trafficked to the president because they set her up and they want to quiet her down. And I mean, this is my reality. So I get to deal with death threats and elites and stalkers and harassers and the media portraying me as a troll. It's very interesting, but I'm so used to people not understanding me to begin with. It is what it is. I'm not going to stop. I'm gonna keep going, keep talking. The day that I was abducted from my neighborhood, from the neighbor across the street and attempted to be sold at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, somebody understood me that day, and it saved my fucking ass that they did. This woman noticed that I looked really fucking freaked out. And I was. This woman who took me to the aquarium from the Middle East was telling me to call her mom, which I thought was really weird. And, the whole way that she was able to take me to the aquarium in the first place was she tricked me out of my neighbor's yard that lived next door to her. And I was like 7 or 8 at the time. I was really fucking young. And I was already not supposed to talk to them or go anywhere near them because both of her sons, I was 6 or 7, and they were wrapped around my age. One brother was younger than me and one older. They attempted to sexually assault me one day. Their mom was upstairs, and I was rarely allowed over there because it was just boys, and my mom just thought it was kind of rough, and we'd hear stories that they, burnt part of their house down on accident twice. They used to drive around, and they would be literally on the hoods of their car. Their dad would drive around, and they'd be on the hoods of their car as children. It was like craziness. My mom was like, it's too crazy over there. You're not to go over there. So one time I was over there with my older brother, and we were allowed to be over there. I was allowed to be over there. And I was upstairs and I was helping the mother clean up. They had just had breakfast. There was Fruity Pebbles fucking everywhere. They would sit on the table and eat, and they were just crazy kids. And I was helping to clean up, and the mother was like, oh, you're very sweet and you don't have to do this. And why don't you go downstairs and go play with the boys? There's a bunch of toys down there. I'd never been down there before, but I'd heard all about their basement. It was filled with every fucking toy. And I'd hear all about it from my older brother, about all the toys that were down there. And I wanted to see what was down there. Because I liked plenty of my brother's toys growing up. I thought they were fun or cool or interesting. Sometimes I had to play with my brothers. And they weren't about to play Barbie or My Little Pony. So I went down to their basement, and my older brother was already down there with the 2 boys. And as soon as I walked in there, I started looking around, and they immediately ambushed me. these two boys, they immediately grabbed me and threw me down on like a mattress or a bed or something and pinned me down and were prying my legs open and telling my older brother to participate. And thank God he didn't. He was horrified and ripped them off of me and told me, Molly, run home, get out of here. And he was holding them back while I escaped and ran home. So I get home and I tell my mom, and I don't know if she understood or didn't care or didn't understand the severity, or I don't know. I was dismissed. I was scolded and told that I shouldn't be over there and it wasn't ladylike. I don't know, just really stupid programming instead of my mother just directly fucking handling something. So I wasn't allowed over there. It was chalked up to boys will be boys, is what my mother said when I tried to explain to her what they were doing. And I was trying to explain to her in 6 or 7 or 8-year-old terms that I don't know what sex is at that age. I was in Catholic school. And I knew a little bit about it because I kept meeting sexual predators, though. My uncle even being one. That I was learning as a toddler, as a minor, very young, to stay the fuck away from him. And then he stole about $2 million from us, changing my grandfather's will. And it took us about 10 years to fight that bullshit battle. But my daddy won it because, like me, he's innocent and innocent people win. So anyway, back to that. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near them after that point. It was boys will be boys, Molly, stay home, less freedom for you. Which I liked and didn't like because my mom was always kicking us out of the house, go play, it's a beautiful day. She'd walk in the room and, open the windows and wake us up. And, she'd come in my room and, Molly, wake up, it's a beautiful day, go out and play. I want to see you up and at 'em as soon as possible. And we had to get outside and go play. We were not allowed to really hang out inside of our house. And that was fun and also not fun. We lived in the forest of Pebble Beach in the Monterey Del Monte forest. And so there was a bit to do there. And we had big lot lines and stuff like that. So there was a lot of nature and wooded areas and a water tower and all this stuff in our neighborhood. And friends to play with. So it was interesting and stuff to do. But I mean, there was no cell phones. There was no way of getting in touch with anyone. Unless you called them from a house, which I wasn't really supposed to be in them. So we usually wouldn't say that we were in someone's house because we didn't want to get in trouble. So, I mean, this is just terrible programming as a child and adult-child relationships, dynamics that we need to address today so that we don't keep repeating this shit. So it was chalked up to a misunderstanding, or not even a misunderstanding, just boys will be boys. My wings were clipped. I stayed home a bit. And as someone who was handicapped and wanted to just kind of be lazy and stay at home and play with my damn toys, I was kind of happy. And then my mom got sick of me and annoyed with me. And, relinquished that grounding of, go get out of the house, go have fun, go play, go ride your bike, go roller skate, go find your girlfriends, go find cats. That was my favorite thing to do, is knock on people's door and ask, do you have a cat I could play with? And then when they said no, I said, do you have a kid? The cat was first. I'd still rather play with animals. So one Saturday or Sunday morning, I went over to my girlfriend's house that lived across the street. And she wasn't home, and she was an only child. So I really knew her agenda, but also knew that she was pulled in a lot of directions because she was always with her parents and never really left home alone or anything like that. So I had to be at the mercy of waiting for her to come home. So I remember being in her front yard, and I knocked on the door, no one was there, and I saw her cat came by. So I just kind of hung out with her cat. And then I think I'd remembered her saying that she had something to do in the morning and she'd be back. I think by 10 or 11 or something like that. So I had maybe a 10, 15, half an hour window that I feel like I remember at the time of thinking I was going to be waiting for her and seeing her anytime soon. And since I really wanted to spend a lot of time with her, because she used to go to daycare after school, so we never really got to hang out during the week during the school week when we went to school together at the Carmel Mission. And so on the weekends, it was, let's wake up really early and be best friends all day. So the earlier the better was so fun because, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock rolls around really quickly and My Little Ponies need to be put away and all the toys need to be cleaned up. And, it was really fun just playing with fucking toys all day. And she had a really nice playhouse in her backyard, a gorgeous playhouse, filled up with spiders really quickly and got very scary very quickly. But anyway, I digress. So I was waiting in her yard, and I'm trying to paint a picture here. So I was waiting in her yard. She had all these river rocks in her front yard, and I was playing with them and just trying to keep busy and waiting to see for her car to pull up. And all of a sudden I hear, so my house is across the street, and I'm at my friend's house, and to the right of her is the house that those boys assaulted me at, and their mother. And the mother's in the driveway, and she sees me and she goes, Molly, come here. And I said, like, fuck, I don't want to be rude, but I'm literally not supposed to talk to you. Like, you guys are crazy, and I don't know that you know, but I'm not allowed to tell you because it's rude. Like, this is the programming of a 7-year-old. And so I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, I'm waiting for my friend. And she goes, come here, I just want to show you something really quick. She goes, I think you'll like it. Like, I'm trying to remember what the lure was. And I hated being rude to adults because I would get in so much trouble at school. Molly has problems with authority. And it's like, yeah, because I will challenge you if you're a piece of shit, regardless if you have authority or not. And I will challenge you if I think you're missing things too, because I keep seeing predators and it keeps getting missed. I don't know, I just had a ton of programming, and I would constantly be challenging it because I didn't feel safe. I wanted people to notice that I didn't fucking feel safe and to ask me some goddamn questions. So, and this is before it started getting really, really bad, because I stopped eating for many, many years because there was just so many people around me that were really concerning the fuck out of me as adults. So this woman is calling me, Molly, come here, I want to show you something. And she's got her car, and her car was in the driveway, and she calls me over, and I decide to go over there, and I go over, and I'm like, fuck, if my mom looks out the window and sees me over there, she's going to rip me a new one. I don't know what I'm going to say to her. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I got to be sure to tell my mom that I'm sorry, and I don't know what to do in these kind of situations, because I'm thinking my mom's going to see me in my head and she's going to scream at me. So I get over there, and as soon as I get over there, I'm in like the side yard between their houses. I'm staying really far away from like their front door or anything like that. And she shows me this bucket of water. She says, Molly, I want you to look at this. So I was really into science and nature. I used to make terrariums all the time with snails and catch salamanders. And I was super duper into nature and like marine biology and stuff like that. Really, really digging science. And so she shows me this bucket, and she goes, what do you see inside? And I look inside, and I didn't see anything at first. It just was water, pretty water. I mean, just like a little atmosphere of water, which totally would have allured me as a child too. And she bangs the side of the bucket, and all of a sudden I see it's, we used to call them roly-polies or something like that. Well, they're mosquito larvae, and they are really interesting to look at if you're a little child. They look like sea monkeys, like shrimp sea monkeys. So they were really, really interesting. And she had a huge bucket of them. And I remember my mom used to knock over all the buckets whenever it would rain, because it would be rainy in the Bay Area a lot. And I used to love these habitats because I would find those things. I was like, what the hell are these? These are amazing. Like, can we have an aquarium of these? And my mom would be like, oh, gross, they're mosquitoes, kill them. And I hated doing it, but I knew exactly what they were. So she totally lured me over with that. She hits the bucket. They all start going crazy inside. I'm just staring at them. I think they're fantastic. My mom would never let me do that. She'd knock them over. And so then she goes, Molly, do you want to go to the aquarium? And I said, yeah, yeah, that sounds amazing. And this is not verbatim, because first of all, I never got to repeat this whole thing to the police that ended up showing up, or my parents that completely chalked it up to a misunderstanding, miscommunication. I assumed they knew best, and it was, and I just kind of moved on with my life. But this is not verbatim, but this is pretty much what was happening. She either said, Molly, I have your parents' permission, but the gist of it was she told me she had my mother's permission to take me to the aquarium that day, that she'd already talked to her, which I found very weird, but also amazing. And I believed her. She's the lady across the street. She's our fucking neighbor. Like, I don't assume we lived next to criminals as a kid. So I think everything's on the up and up. And I am so excited. And then she tells me it's just her and I, and that her boys are not coming. Because at first I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And then I looked a little nervous. I was like, who's coming? I thought maybe there's a big group with us. And then I was like, I don't want to do that because I tend to get bullied and I tend to get harassed and I tend to get sexually assaulted very easily. So I'd rather stay home if it's all the same. So she tells me that she's got my mother's permission to take me to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is a new state-of-the-art fucking aquarium at this age. And it's all you ever hear about. And my grandfather's radio station was on Cannery Row right at the end where the aquarium was that my dad ran. So it was all my dad talked about too. It was all downtown Monterey talked about. It was all Cannery Row talked about. And it wasn't cheap to go all the time. But my dad would get trade outs or we'd do some airtime for them and get tickets, or sometimes my mom would take us. But it was whenever someone presented the opportunity to go, I wanted to go. They had touch tanks, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. That was like the reason to go, were these touch tanks where you could put your hands in and touch starfish and da-da-da. Because my dad used to take us all to Pebble Beach all the time. We'd go to the beaches, Carmel Beach, and play in all the tide pools, which are nature's touch ponds. And I just loved it. I loved the starfish. I loved the sea anemones, the urchins, the finding little fish, crabs, hermit crabs. Oh gosh, I have the best memories of just exploring Monterey Bay. So I was really excited at the thought of just this woman and I going to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Like, I'm thinking, oh my God, we're only going to do what I want to do. This sounds amazing. Like, sounded like the best day ever. And that is how predators get you. Because that's exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell presented to me too. And the human trafficker recruiter that she worked with or was born into it, that took me to the Epstein party in 2001, that dumped out to Mar-a-Lago via personal invitation of Trump that Ghislaine mentioned herself. But since I was not properly drugged, because I don't drink, so Lisa was not able to drug me, I was not invited to the after party, which thank God, because I hear that's where you get raped and the blackmail happens. And thank God that did not fucking manifest. But that woman painted a picture too. I remember she was offering me Victoria's Secrets, and I remember thinking, that's like my dream, and also not my dream because I am terrified of sex and men, and I was covering my little baby boobies coming out in the 3rd grade, like literally giant sweaters in Florida, and holding my cat here. So horribly uncomfortable with my body. So her luring me in with Victoria's Secret, I told her I wasn't interested. I told her I was more into singing and acting, musical theater, stuff like that, which I truly was. I had way more fun doing that than being a sexy piece of child meat. So anyway, so this woman was dangling a dream day in front of me. And part of this is I want to explain to you grooming and how someone abducts someone. And it's not stranger danger. Okay, that's a huge misconception. And one of the reasons I didn't realize I was raped when I was 9 or what the fuck was going on around me, because none of these people were strangers. So I preach something called not so stranger danger because it's not strangers. It is not strangers. And we'll learn this more and more, the more details we learn about the Epstein and Maxwell findings from all the survivors that are coming forward, because there are thousands of them. So yesterday I saw Ghislaine Maxwell's asking for more time because there are 3 million pages of accusations against her. That's a lot of evidence, sirs and madams. So Book of Revelation called that. And that's another thing I want to talk about a bit too, is this Book of Revelation stuff. Because I have taken a long hiatus. I have not felt like even doing this show. I've not been in a really good, positive space because I'm dealing with so much darkness, ancient demon, fucking dragon, Luciferian. Lucy's like, don't give me a bad name. This agenda, this draconian, the whole thing, it's all fucked up. It's human trafficking, it's in slavery, and it's been going on since the dawn of time, and it's finally ending now, just like prophesied in the Book of Revelation, that Jesus threw at my feet when I saw him back in 2015. And and have been studying with him relentlessly, recalling first learning about the Book of Revelation in 2nd grade at this same school. So back to the lady grabbing me. But what I'm getting at is, I mean, this is my purpose, is to explain to people how this shit happens, how a child gets almost stolen, almost sold, almost trafficked, almost kidnapped, almost raped, almost drugged. Because I have been those things, and I've also almost repeatedly been them on top of those times, because I learned to really keep my wits about me and see what was going on. So the woman is painting a picture to me, offering me this private time to go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, where it's not with a group of other kids where I'll get lost in the shuffle, or if I want to hang out somewhere longer, Molly, we got to go, like a field trip. Molly, you got to go. Everyone else, the whole group is moving along, even though you're, staring at the orcas or whatever you're doing that you want to be doing longer. So it was a fantasy for me to do this. And just to justify for my mother for a minute, my mother is twice as crippled, handicapped as I am. So that's why she and I weren't going to the aquarium all the time by ourselves too. My mom, gave birth to 3 children naturally, and also had to have massively reconstructive hip surgeries her whole life too, because she was born with congenital hip dysplasia in both of her hips, and I just had it in the one, and now I have it in both because I had to overcompromise with the other. But that's why she couldn't take me to the aquarium that day. She could hardly walk. And she was the housewife and very busy with 2 other children as well. And I'm not making excuses for her. It's called assessing. And I assess a lot of things so that I can educate and talk and speak about these things so that it can end. These things can end and we can learn some things and move on and become this great, grand, ascended species that we know we can become. I'm going to take a break for a second and drink my smoothie. I used to make these in high school. My dad taught me the recipe. Vanilla protein powder, a banana, and some orange juice. Oh my God, so good. And I added berries. That's why it's purple. But great nutrition, vegan, and I used to stay thin in high school. But I digress. Anyway, so we're back at this woman offering me to go to the aquarium. So she tells me she has my mother's full permission ahead of time. She says it's just going to be she and I, and we're going to have the best time ever. And that we can go right now. She's already got my mother's permission. She already talked to her. And we got right in the car. That's how easy. That's how easy. I mean, it was 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. How quickly that manifested that I was in her backseat. And I mean, this is before video cameras. So that's really quickly Molly's missing. So I get in her car. And I remember the leather seats in her back seat. And I remember thinking, I'm cold. Because it's Pebble Beach. It's Monterey. It's always fucking cold. There's fog everywhere. And I remember thinking, I don't have a sweater. I don't have my sweater with me. I don't have anything with me. Like, I just thought it was really weird. So we get out of the driveway. And I'm thinking we're going to pull into my driveway. That I'm going to get my sweater. That I'm going to tell my mom to pack me a lunch because I probably won't be home for lunch. And I wasn't assuming this woman's going to buy me a nice lunch at the aquarium. And I figured we were going to pull into my driveway and that this woman would knock on the door, or, that I would go tell my mom, hey, we're leaving. Suha's, taking me. And we didn't. We drove right out of her driveway and we drove right out of our gated community. And that's when I started panicking, completely disassociating. I was so fucking scared by that point. I thought I was in so much trouble. I thought this is, no, this is very, very wrong. This is not okay. And I wanted to look like I was on the up and up, that I trusted this lady because I didn't want to insult her. I didn't want to send off any red flags either, that we were in any kind of trouble. And I didn't want to let her know that I thought I was in trouble with my parents. Like, I didn't want to question her. I came from a family of, you are to be seen and not heard. You are demanded respect as a child, and you have to respect your adults, and you have to do things that are, just not enforced today, of this respecting your elders over your own gut, So I'm in the back seat, disassociating the whole time, looking out the window, thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm going to be in so much trouble when I get home. Like, this is too weird that I haven't talked to my mom. My mom's going to fucking flip. Like, this is what I'm thinking to myself. Oh my God, I'm dead. I'm dead. Like, this is really, I'm in so much trouble. My mom's going to fucking kill me. That's what's going through my head. So then we get to the aquarium, and I'm so glad we get to the aquarium. So I'm like, okay, well, at least we got to the aquarium. So we're really going to the aquarium. Maybe this is on the up and up. Maybe everything's fine. Maybe she did talk to my mom. Maybe I am supposed to be here with this woman. And we go inside, and she pays for us, and she tells me, she says, Molly, call me mom. And she's in a burqa. And I'm a little blonde towhead white girl in very American clothes. And I'm like, I don't know who's going to believe that, but that's sweet. I think that's really, I thought it was really sweet. That's what I thought. And it also creeped me out. Like, I felt like I was betraying my mother at the same time. It was very weird what was triggering up inside me. And there were the touch tanks in the lobby area. There was stuff to do in the lobby area. Like, I remember just trying to disassociate and enjoy myself and think everything was on the up and up. And we were playing in this one area, in the touch tank area. And then we moved into the next area, which wasn't far into the aquarium of how big the place actually is. And I haven't been in years, so I would need to go on a tour again. But we got into this next area, which had like these little nooks and crannies that kids could play in, that had, sea domes or whatever, the glass and the critters. And there was a sitting area. And she was sitting there, and she said, Molly, we have to wait here for about 15 minutes for a friend of mine that's coming. He's on his way. And I wasn't sure if it was a kid. And I think I said, is it a kid? And she said, she made it seem like it was a grown man, which really scared me because I was already being sexually harassed, stalked, groomed, molested, not raped yet. But he was introducing his pants monster to me and saying how much he wanted me to like it, and didn't know how to comprehend any of that shit because that's my friend's dad. That's what I mean about stranger danger. These people flew under the radar because I kept making excuses for them. I kept making excuses. They're adults. They have families. They're not criminals. They must know something I don't, that this is all okay. And I would just keep really quiet because I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get someone else in trouble. I didn't want to be misunderstood. So we were in this one area, and she told me to just hang out here. And she told me to call her mom, and she told me that we were waiting for a man to arrive. And that's when I started getting really scared. Like, everything my mother had told me, or my father, but mostly my mother, about being kidnapped, about children just being kidnapped, and how vulnerable children are, and how easy they are to trick. All of that started going through my head, and my stomach felt really sick. I mean, I think I felt like I probably could have shit myself right then and there. And I was really trying to pretend that none of the things I was nervous about were really going to be happening, and that I was overreacting, and that nothing's bad is happening. Because there was a man that watched me when I sleep. I mean, he would be on our back deck, and this is the man that ended up raping me when I was 9 and telling me he was going to marry me. And no one saw him, and I told my parents about him as well. So I would make excuses for people, or talk myself out of believing something was scary or criminal, or that I needed to be afraid of something. So I think she wanted me to sit next to her. I'm remembering kind of pulling away from her, and she said, just stay right here. Stay where I can see you, my daughter. I said, okay, Mom. And I remember calling her Mom, and I remember wanting to throw up right after I did. And I turned around, and I went over to some glass where a tank was, and there was a woman over there, and I wanted to be close to her. because I didn't go over to where there was nobody. And I started looking at it and I started crying. I just started like hyperventilating and crying. And I kept looking over at her and seeing if she saw me. I think she was there with her own daughter. And she looked at me and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I don't think so." She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "That's not my mom." And then all of a sudden, the next thing I remember is security. She was talking to security. And the woman who had brought me to the aquarium noticed and immediately grabbed me and said, "Oh, we have to go. Your mother is looking for you. Your mother wants you home," or something like that. She said something about my mother suddenly being aware that I was, I don't know, missing or that she needed me. But she was like, "We have to go." And she pulled me out of the aquarium and we rushed to the car. And she was driving me home, and oh my God, I don't even remember I don't remember that ride home. I just don't. I might need to see a hypnotist. Really sit in meditation. Let's see if I can remember that ride home. But when we got home, there were police in my driveway already. And I remember being relieved, nervous, scared, terrified. All of those feelings. All of them. I felt like I was in so much trouble and I felt like no one loved me, and I also felt like someone loved me. It was a lot. It was a lot to process right then and there. So I get out of the car and I run to my house and I see the cops are there and they're talking to my mom, and I think my dad was there too. I'll have to ask my mom. I don't know if she just swept the whole thing under the rug or if he was there also. Because I felt like I remember her taking control of the whole situation. I mean, she's the one who came and talked to me about it when the cops never did. So this is what happened. So I got home. So Suha, we drove up the street. We get into Suha's driveway. I look out and I see in my driveway of my house 2 cop cars, maybe 3. I don't know. There were a couple cop cars, and the police are there and they're talking with my mother. And I thought my father was there too. I don't remember. Like I said, there was quite a commotion going on, obviously. And I thought that my mom had the phone in her ear and she, "Molly, oh my God." And I ran out of the car and I started crying, and I wasn't even sure what was going on. I didn't even know if I needed to be crying or if she just didn't realize that I had left with Suha. And I wasn't sure why the cops were there, and I didn't want to get in too much trouble. I don't know. I just started crying. And she held me and she said, "Where were you? What happened? Where did you go?" And I said, "Suha took me to the aquarium. She said she had your permission." I think I got that out really quickly. And then she was like, "Oh," she said, "Molly, go to your room. Let me handle this. I'm so glad you're okay. I'm so glad you're safe." I remember walking in the house, and I remember it just felt so jarring to be home, and it didn't feel real. It felt surreal. I was just so traumatized in that second. And I remember going in my room, and I remember just thinking to myself, am I in trouble? I'm in so much trouble. And just, I felt so sick. I thought I was going to just vomit. I was just shaking like a leaf. I'm shaking now just thinking about it and recalling all of this. I remember sitting on my bed and thinking, oh my God, how do I act? I don't know how to act right now. I don't know how to act. Do I act like it was a mistake? Do I act like I knew that she tricked me? Do I act like I didn't know how to behave? I didn't know how in that moment I should be feeling. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what felt like an hour goes by. I felt like the sun had set it at this point. And I don't know, maybe it was way earlier, but it was scary as fuck. And my mom comes into my room and she says, it's all been dealt with. She says, "We're so glad you're safe." She said, "The cops have left. It was just a misunderstanding. It's not your fault." she said, but you have to be more careful. And, why would you think that you could just leave without talking to me? And I was like, you're right. I know. And I was trying to explain, but I think she took it as me defending myself. And it wasn't me defending. I was agreeing with her that, yes, my assessment was the same. I thought we were going to stop in the driveway and I was going to get a lunch and I was going to hug you and say goodbye and validate and confirm that this was prearranged. And this is why stranger danger teachings are so dangerous. So she said, we are going to pretend this never happened. It was a misunderstanding. I think she was embarrassed or horrified. She just never expected that her neighbor was kidnapping her daughter. And I, finally had this conversation with her. I mean, just recently in the past couple of years, and bringing it up here and there throughout my life whenever I could. I was not allowed to speak about things. When I was in high school, my parents tried to have me committed for arguing, for literally speaking. And I didn't realize how bad it was at my house, even though I ran away often. Other people would tell me from an outside perspective that my family was very fucking weird. Very, very abusive. And I just didn't see it because they were also very supportive, encouraging, and enabling of my dreams, I have a lot of mixed feelings on all of that. I felt like I was only worth anything when I was perfect. That's all I was allowed to be, is you have to be perfect or don't come around. Don't have any other emotions or look. And it served a purpose. It's good and bad. It's prepared me for a world that expects me to be perfect in order to be respected or understood or heard or given the time of day. So I appreciate my brainwashing, my programming. It serves me. God uses it all. But yeah, so I stayed far away from her after that. And I haven't wanted to do this podcast in a while. I've had a very fucking hard time writing my stories, my childhood memories, my adolescent memories, my memories in my 20s. It is so painful. There's so much sexual abuse and exploitation. And it's painful because I invested everything into myself. I invested everything into being able to sing one day and follow my dreams and perform and be a character voice and sing to children. And instead, I invested time, energy, money, my life, everything, voice coaches, acting coaches, modeling coaches, refining coaches, colleges, high school, middle school. I used to do the morning news, so I had a total media drive on top of being handicapped the whole time and thinking none of this will come to fruition because handicapped people don't seem to get that opportunity. And I was okay with it. I enjoyed doing it for myself. And, I'm in so much pain. So I make a lot of excuses as well. It's not worth making all the effort for because I'll just be limping and being in a lot of pain. So it's not worth it, but it is all worth it. And this is the hand I was dealt, and I understand it. And me being handicapped, I think, is a blessing because I would have had way more opportunities to dance with the beast if I wasn't handicapped. I would have gone on way more auditions and pursued everything way harder if my limbs didn't fucking dislocate. And this has been my walk with God. This is my walk with faith. It was really shaken after a lot of things from my childhood. But then my intuition was so incredible as a child. And then I'd also had many experiences of, seeing dead people, going to funerals and literally being like, no, they're fine. And I can feel them and I can hear them. And they come to me in my dreams and it would confuse me. I'd wake up and be like, Mom, is so-and-so dead? Because I hung out with her all last night. She was talking to me in my dream and she felt so alive still, like giving me relevant information. That's why I would get so confused. So I understand. And it's going to take a lot for me to explain everything God has explained to me, demanding my own answers of why would I ever come to a planet that rapes children? Why would I ever come to a planet that kidnaps and sells children? Why would I ever come to a planet where that's your neighbors? Why would I ever come to a planet where your mother doesn't let you speak? God had a lot of questions he owed me. And Jesus has been the bridge to tell them to me, and being able to understand and dial into the God energy. Because if you don't recognize it, you'll never recognize it. I mean, that's all there is to it. But yeah, so I came out about the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, my own stories. I've been harassed, stalked. I mean, it's amazing. And I don't give a fuck, and I'm not going to stop. And I mean, I got my first death threat when I was a toddler from an old man, and it worked for a bit. And I also wanted to drag his motherfucking ass into court if someone would let me fucking talk. So here we are. I made a promise to myself as a child that I would take care of this as an adult. And God made that promise to me as a child too, because I would hear in my head, Molly, you're going to write a book. You're going to write a book and you're going to expose all of these monsters and no one's going to ever be able to stop you. And I need you to write this book. The world really needs this book. You're going to have an opportunity when you're an adult. You're an adult. When you're an adult, you're going to set yourself free. You're going to show the whole world. You're going to tell everyone what no one saw and what people did see and still couldn't put it together. And I am doing that, and I have been doing it. And my podcast is part of telling this story for days that I am too frozen with rage and disgust to sit and type so archaically or even talk to text. Thank God for technology. But I know production. I know how to self-produce. It's my background. It's my lineage. My grandfather came through to remind me, you know. So that's what I'm doing. And thank you for joining me on another episode of Let's Be Frank with your host, Survivor. Trafficking human hunter. See you next time. Thanks so much. If you'd like to work closely with me, you can opt in the show notes to an email sequence that will go right out to you with my complimentary 5-day manifesting mastery course. There I teach you the basics of all things manifesting and how we're always manifesting and why it would behoove us to know what we're doing.